February 21st, 1965, a date forever etched in the annals of history, a date that signifies both tragedy and transcendence. On this day, the world lost a leader, a visionary, a voice for the voiceless. Malcolm X, the fiery orator, the uncompromising advocate for black empowerment, was silenced by an assassin's bullet. His life, though tragically cut short, left an enduring legacy that continues to inspire generations. In 1964, Malcolm X embarked on a life-altering pilgrimage to Mecca. This journey was not just a physical voyage, but a profound spiritual quest that would forever change the course of his life. This journey proved to be a pivotal turning point, profoundly impacting his worldview and ideology. As he walked the sacred grounds of Mecca, he found himself surrounded by a sea of humanity, all united in their devotion to a higher power. Witnessing Muslims of all races united in prayer deeply moved him. The sight of people from different backgrounds, ethnicities, and cultures coming together in worship was a revelation. He embraced a more inclusive understanding of Islam, one that transcended the racial divisions he had previously espoused. This newfound perspective was a stark contrast to the separatist ideology he had once championed. His travels through Africa and the Middle East further broadened his perspective. In these lands, he encountered a rich tapestry of cultures and traditions, each contributing to his evolving understanding of the world. He saw the struggles of oppressed people around the world and recognized the interconnectedness of their fight for freedom. The plight of these communities resonated deeply with him, reinforcing his commitment to justice and equality. This newfound understanding led him to question the rigid doctrines of the Nation of Islam, the organization he had served with unwavering loyalty. He began to see the limitations of their teachings and the need for a more inclusive approach. His time abroad had opened his eyes to the limitations of their teachings, particularly their stance on racial separation. He realized that true liberation could only be achieved through unity and solidarity among all oppressed peoples. He returned to America a changed man, ready to challenge the status quo and forge a new path towards black liberation. With a renewed sense of purpose, he sought to build bridges between communities and advocate for a more inclusive and just society. Malcolm X's break from the Nation of Islam was fraught with conflict and danger. His decision to leave the organization was not taken lightly, as it meant severing ties with a group that had been central to his identity and mission for many years. His public criticism of the organization's leader, Elijah Muhammad, drew swift and severe repercussions. Malcolm X had once revered Elijah Muhammad as a mentor and spiritual guide, but revelations about Muhammad's personal conduct led Malcolm to question the integrity of the leadership. He was branded a traitor and subjected to threats and intimidation. The backlash was intense, with former allies turning against him and the media portraying him as a dangerous radical. Despite the risks, Malcolm X refused to be silenced. His resolve only strengthened as he faced adversity, and he continued to speak out against injustice with even greater fervor. He believed that his evolving understanding of Islam and his commitment to racial unity were paramount. Malcolm X's pilgrimage to Mecca had a profound impact on him, broadening his perspective on race and religion. He understood the need for a unified front in the fight for civil rights. He began to reach out to other civil rights leaders, recognizing that collaboration was essential for meaningful change. His message resonated with many who felt disillusioned by the slow pace of progress and the limitations of non-violent resistance. Malcolm X's call for self-defense and empowerment struck a chord with those who felt marginalized and unheard. His voice, once confined within the parameters of the Nation of Islam's ideology, now boomed across America, calling for black self-determination and challenging the very foundations of racial inequality. His speeches inspired a new generation of activists and left an indelible mark on the civil rights movement. Upon his return to America, Malcolm X founded the Organization of Afro-American Unity. This organization reflected his evolving beliefs, advocating for human rights, self-defense, and Pan-Africanism. He urged Black Americans to control their own communities, their own destinies. He believed that true liberation could only be achieved through self-reliance and a united front against oppression. However, his growing influence and his outspoken criticism of the establishment made him a target. The FBI placed him under surveillance, and death threats became a constant reality. Yet Malcolm X refused to be intimidated. He continued to speak truth to power, even as the shadows of hatred gathered around him. Despite the ever-present danger, Malcolm X found solace in his family life. He was a devoted husband to Betty Shabazz and a loving father to their 4 daughters. His family provided him with a sense of normalcy amidst the turbulence of his public life. They were his sanctuary, his refuge from the storm. However, a sense of foreboding hung heavy in the air. Malcolm X knew that his enemies were closing in. He spoke of premonitions of his own demise, of plots against his life. He understood the risks he was taking, but he refused to be silenced by fear. He believed that his life was insignificant compared to the fight for freedom and justice. On February 21, 1965, Malcolm X arrived at the Audubon Ballroom in Harlem to deliver a speech. It was a cold winter day, but the atmosphere inside was electric, charged with the energy of those who had come to hear him speak. The atmosphere was tense, the air thick with anticipation. People had gathered from all over, eager to hear his powerful words, to be inspired by his vision for a better future. As he stood on stage, a disturbance erupted in the crowd. The sudden commotion caught everyone off guard, and confusion spread like wildfire. In the chaos that ensued, 3 gunmen rushed towards him, firing their weapons. The sound of gunfire echoed through the ballroom, creating a scene of utter pandemonium. Malcolm X, struck by 15 bullets, collapsed to the floor. His body, once a symbol of strength and resilience, now lay motionless. The crowd, moments ago filled with his words, erupted in panic and disbelief. People screamed and ran for cover, their hopes shattered in an instant. The man who had dedicated his life to fighting for justice, who had dared to challenge the status quo, lay dying on the ballroom floor. His voice, which had once roared with conviction, was silenced forever. He was rushed to the hospital, but it was too late. The doctors could do nothing to save him, and the world lost one of its most passionate advocates for equality. Malcolm X, the fiery orator, the uncompromising advocate, the beacon of hope for millions, was gone. His legacy, however, would live on, inspiring future generations to continue the fight for justice and equality. The assassination of Malcolm X sent shockwaves across the globe. His death was a profound loss not only for the black community but for all who yearned for a more just and equitable world. Yet from the ashes of tragedy, his legacy ignited a fire that continues to burn brightly today. His words, once considered radical and incendiary, now resonate with renewed urgency. His message of self-determination, of black pride, of unwavering resistance against oppression, continues to inspire generations of activists, artists, and changemakers. Malcolm X may be gone, but his spirit lives on, a testament to the enduring power of one man's voice to challenge the status quo and ignite the flames of change.